it's the weekend, and as it is on most weekends, although we've been having a few problems over the last couple of weeks, we check in with Michael Snyder and find out what's happening in the wonderful world of his culture blast. Hello, Michael.
Well, hello, Alex, and greetings from Hollywood, as we say on occasion. It's been ping-pong time back and forth between Hollywood and San Francisco, and it's nice to be back here, the entertainment capital of the world, despite the paucity of good entertainment, because, oh my God, they do crank out a lot of crap in Hollywood. So what's up? How you doing?
I'm doing fine, doing just great.
Good. So let's get down to it. They keep cranking out these adaptations of young adult novel series stuff. It's generally dystopian. And yeah, here's some more Harry Potter and the Hunger Games, Maze of Divergent Doom. How many of these things are they going to make? I don't know. Shailene Woodley is back as Triss in the second film in the Divergent series, which is, again, more dystopian futurist stuff about various factions that are pitted against one another in a far future in a walled-off city after the apocalypse. And, of course, she's the magical person who has all the elements of all the factions within her. She's the key to freeing everyone or oppressing everyone. That's kind of your basic plot in one of these movies. And she gives it her all, as we say. But this stuff still strikes me as pretty weak sauce. She co-stars with the likes of Ansel Elgort, who played her boyfriend in The Fault in Our Stars and now plays her brother. Miles Teller, so good in Whiplash this past year, reduced to a smirky, snarky side role in this thing. But hey, it's a check. Plus you get Kate Winslet as the vile leader of the totalitarian forces playing against type. And, everybody's pretty good. Naomi Watts gets thrown into the mix. Maggie Q has 3 lines. Ultimately, if you saw the first one and liked it, and I didn't, you're going to like this. But, not very happy about it.
I like the first one, but I watched it on cable. And there may be a difference between that and sitting your ass down in a theater.
Well, what did you think of the Hunger Games films?
I like the Hunger Games films. I mean, I felt the first one was great. I felt the rest were repetitious.
This is actually, okay, this is a little better than Divergent, the first film. Insurgent. So it had a surge of interest for me for a while, but ultimately, some really fantastic set pieces, by the way. Some really interesting and vivid and nicely rendered kind of near fantasy.
I'm just kind of looking forward to this because I watched the first one on HBO, and I watched it for about a half hour and wasn't that into it. And then one night I had nothing better to do, so I picked it up where I left off, and I went, hey, I kind of like this, Well,
it's nice to see Naomi Judd's daughter getting work. It's great that Ashley Judd is in the mix. But by the same token, I just think these movies get on my nerves. And repetitious, they're all basically cut from the same cloth. I kind of like the Maze Runner best of all of these right now. But anyway, let's move on. Danny Collins is a return to form in a way for Al Pacino, who plays an elderly 1970s rock star who has gone from being a wannabe Dylan type to essentially Neil Diamond, and his manager, who's played, by the way, very well by Christopher Plummer, shocks him in his dissolute, dissipated, spendthrift life and says, oh my God, 40 years ago, John Lennon wrote you a letter after reading an interview in some fanzine with you, and it never got to you. And he reads the letter, and he's determined to reconnect with the child he never knew. And the child has grown up to be played by Bobby Cannavale, married to Jennifer Garner's character. And so this Danny Collins, played by Pacino, goes to North Jersey and to a hotel there and begins to basically stalk his son. And it's actually got some great moments. Annette Bening plays the woman in charge of the hotel manager, and there's kind of a flirtation there. But what I really liked about this film was Pacino not taking it over the top. I sort of enjoyed this. I think this is going to be fun to watch on video, and it has some heartfelt moments, and there's some eye-rolling moments too. There's not a single hoo-ah, but I did think Danny Collins was on the positive side of the ledger. The Gunman is Sean Penn's attempt to get in on the action thriller international gunslinger movie mode, which has been staked out by Liam Neeson in a big way. In this case, he plays a black ops assassin in Africa who, after being mandated to take someone out, is ushered out of the country by one of his colleagues. And it turns out that the colleague, played by Javier Bardem, basically wants to mac on Sean Penn's character's girlfriend. So cut to years later, when Sean Penn's character is assumed to be dead or gone, Bardem is in with the girl, and all hell breaks loose for everyone. And yeah, there are moments and moments, and again, good supporting cast, including Idris Elba and Ray Winstone, and some violence and a little bit of globe trotting. You get some Barcelona, and you get a little bit of Africa, but not great stuff. Not terrible, not great. Cinderella is, another great example of Disney repurposing a story that's been in the public domain for centuries. It's good business, and yes, a live-action version of the animated Cinderella was indeed, that's the antecedent to this thing, is shaking things up a little bit, and you have a lot of talent involved. Kenneth Branagh, whose movie for Marvel, Thor, was such a treat. He's at the helm. He's got his ex-girlfriend, Helena Bonham Carter, playing the fairy godmother to a fare-thee-well. Kate Blanchett, talk about scenery chewing. She's the wicked stepmom. And in some interesting flip-flops in casting, Cinderella herself is played by Lily James. And we meet her fairly early on scrubbing floors for the stepmom and the stepsisters. And Lily James is the girl who plays Cousin Rose on Downton Abbey, the fairest flower of the Grantham family. And as one of the wicked stepsisters, Sophie McSherra, who plays in Downton Abbey the cook Daisy, downstairs. And so it's kind of a nice flip there. And you also have one of my favorite young actresses, Holly Granger. Wasted is another wicked stepsister. You get, as the handsome prince, Richard Madden, Robb Stark of Game of Thrones. And you're thinking, this can't end well. Cinderella, the Red Wedding. But in fact, it's boilerplate. And, they throw a little money at this thing. It's certainly better than Maleficent in terms of bringing animated properties to live action for Disney. And I think people are really loving the hell out of it. And Agent Carter's even in this thing. Haley Atwell is Cinderella's mom. That's right. They do a little backstory. Not terrible. I guess it's got a target audience, and it's hitting the target. It Follows is the first of any of these films where I can really go, yeah, I love this. A super creepy horror movie made on a shoestring and more effective than most of your latter-day unkillable slasher psycho movies. This one concerns a young woman who's cursed with an unstoppable, relentless demon killer who can take the shape of anyone living or dead, looking somewhat normal, and come at her in a straight line until it can get to her and kill her. It walks deliberately in a straight line and basically chases her wherever she can go. She can get a little extra time by driving 50 miles, but it's still a coming. It's a very clever idea. And this young woman and her friends have to deal with this creepy villain. And, it's directed by a guy named David Robert Mitchell. I don't know what he's done before, and the cast is a bunch of unknowns, but damn, It Follows works. Run All Night, speaking of Liam Neeson earlier, he plays another hard guy in this thing, and instead of dealing with his daughter, it's his son that he's worried about. And the son of his longtime pal and mob boss, well played, and basically this guy seemingly having a ball by Ed Harris. This guy's son is killed, and his longtime buddy and assassin, Liam Neeson, has to basically come out of a drunken haze to try and rescue his own alienated son, who's a good guy, played by Joel Kinnaman from The Killing and RoboCop, from a gang of thugs trying to get revenge. So it's Liam Neeson in action, and I had fun with this thing. It's basically popcorn movie stuff and disposable, but Run All Night had me entertained and caught up, and basically, yeah, Liam Neeson, action hero of the 21st century, a guy who probably never dreamt 20 years ago he'd be doing this kind of stuff, trapped in art movies and such. But I enjoyed Run All Night. The Wrecking Crew is so much fun. Maybe it's not great in terms of the direction, which is by a young man named Denny Tedesco, who's the son of the famous, the session guitarist Tommy Tedesco. The Wrecking Crew is about the most remarkable bunch of musicians imaginable, 20 or so musicians who were the key players behind the majority of top 40 hits and like more than a few really beloved movie and TV show themes that came out of LA recording studios between 1962 and 1971. And we know all the names of the artists on the record, like Nat King Cole, the Ronettes, Sinatra, the Beach Boys, the Monkees, Sonny and Cher, but you only know 3 or 4 of these musicians that provided most of the instrumental backing in general. Guys like Glenn Campbell, Leon Russell, Dr. John. Mostly these guys were on the back of liner notes. You would see them in small print, but they cranked out so many fantastic songs. And this movie, The Wrecking Crew, is a documentary that's kind of a love letter to them. And you meet sax man Steve Douglas, James Burton. We don't meet these guys, but they're certainly among the people that define the West Coast sound of the 60s. But drummer Hal Blaine and bass player Carol Kay, the only woman who was really prominent in this group, are interviewed in a round table with a couple of the other guys, including the now late Tommy Tedesco. And I mean, Paul McCartney referred to Carol Kay as someone who revolutionized bass playing, and she's the bass on things like Mission Impossible. She's the bass player on California Girls by the Beach Boys. I mean, it's fantastic, the breadth and amount of wonderful songs that these guys played on. Even Simon and Garfunkel's Mrs. Robinson and Everybody's Talking by Nilsson. Great stuff. And Pet Sounds, the Beach Boys album. These guys, they were the band. Great stuff. The Wrecking Crew. It struck a chord with me. Chappie is the third sci-fi film set in Johannesburg of the near future, the South African capital, by South African director Neil Blomkamp. And unlike District 9, which I loved, and which was an allegory about race in a lot of ways, and racial strife, and Elysium, which kind of failed and was the rich people versus the poor people, with Matt Damon running around as the central figure. Chappie is more of a kind of a comedy in a lot of ways. Yolandi and Ninja of the South African rap group Die Antwoord play kind of a mother and father to a broken down, reclaimed police robot of the future that's part of a big system to crush crime in Johannesburg. It's a big corporation run by Sigourney Weaver is cranking out these robots that have been developed by a character played by Dev Patel of Slumdog Millionaire and The Newsroom. And it's kind of clownish, and in a lot of ways it seems like a mega-length Die Antwoord video. But Charlton Copley, who was in District 9, is basically the shape, the body, the motion capture heart of this robot, Chappie, who these two criminals, these two gang types, Ninja and Yolandi, teach to be like their son and their own personal muscle. And I just thought it would have been better. And of course, the robot develops his own identity. It's kind of an AI thing. It's sort of Robo Nokio. They build this thing up, and of course, it's obviously headed for trouble. It's so full of funny moments and weirdness and great visuals that it should have amounted to more than the sum of its parts, and it does not. It's hard to decipher a lot of the dialogue with the thick South African accents. I think you need subtitles throughout the whole thing. Again, it's like a mega-length Die Antwoord video, and they're very entertaining, but I just think it's sort of a crazy, brilliant failure on the part of Blomkamp. I don't know what he's going to do next. I think he has like a new Alien movie he might have signed on to do, but this is weird, and I don't think everybody's going to take to it. I should have loved it more than I did. Chappie. Finally, let's wrap up. Unfinished Business is an unfunny Vince Vaughn vehicle where he plays a guy who runs a small business in competition with the people who used to hire him. And he and his two associates, a guy who's too old for the job and basically sort of a simpleton, played by the great British actor Tom Wilkinson and James Franco's brother Dave. They have to go to Europe to kind of close a big deal, and things kind of go bonkers. And it goes to a lot of different events and different cities, and you do have good supporting work by the actors, and you also get Nick Frost involved in this thing from things like Shaun of the Dead and such, but not great. And finally, if you like the first Exotic Marigold Hotel film, you like the second one. Oldsters from the UK go to India and find second lives at a hotel that they get involved with running. Dev Patel's in this film, so is Maggie Smith, Judi Dench, Bill Nighy, and Richard Gere is the new twist, an American who shows up at this hotel where they all live in India, and might be a hotel inspector or a guy that might help sell the hotel. If you like the first film, you're going to like this. What do you got in video? Anything interesting going on?
Not really. Not really. I mean, Netflix just started another one of their Netflix originals called Bloodline, which I watched about 15 minutes of, and so far I'm bored. But, and there are 13 episodes of an hour long each, which is a bit of a binge for most people. And what else? That's about it. Vikings is on. That's a great show, done by Michael Hurst, who also did The Tudors and the Elizabeth movies. And that's about it. I'm trying to think what I've been watching.
Did you get on the Fortitude train at all?
Oh yeah, I've been on Fortitude since the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wrapping up. I thought fantastic.
No, it's not wrapping up. It's got 13 episodes.
I think they're at number 8 or 9, but I do know that it's caught my interest. I've really enjoyed it.
It got better and better, And by the way, I also liked the Tina Fey thing, Kimmy.
Kimmy Schmidt, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Ellie Kemper was likable on The Office, and she's pretty wonderful in this too. I do want to. I seem like I didn't give many big thumbs up to any of those films. The Wrecking Crew, of course. But I wanted to say there's a little film that may have fallen through the cracks for people, and I think that they should seek it out. It's called The Salvation, and it's a Western starring Mads Mikkelsen, who played Le Chiffre in Casino Royale, as a Danish guy who comes to America during the 1870s to build a life, invites his wife to join him, and the wife and kids show up, and something awful happens, and he ends up in conflict with the guy who runs the gang, played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan. This is such a beautifully shot film, and so impressive in terms of the cinematography and the story and the cast. And Mads Mikkelsen, he's not the kind of star you expect to see in an American movie, but man, he's good in The Salvation. I just want to throw that out there because sometimes things get lost, and people should seek The Salvation.
Yeah, and outside of that, I miss Agent Carter. I wish there were more episodes of it. I really liked it,
Well, she's Cinderella's mom, the new Cinderella movie.
And I don't know if it's going to be back because it didn't get very good ratings, so,
I think they're pretty hopeful about it, but yeah, you're right, it may not. I'm back on S.H.I.E.L.D. They're the sister show.
I'm finding that show to get pretty boring. It's getting dull, getting very dull.
I'm going to stick with it. I'm enjoying it.
I'm sticking with it, but it's not going anywhere. So anyway, that's about what I'm watching. But Kimmy, whatever. The show.
Kimmy Schmidt.
Kimmy Schmidt is, I think, it gets better and better and better as you watch it.
You know what? Have you watched the Jack and Triumph show at all?
No.
That's the new thing with Robert Smigel, and he plays Triumph as part of a former Lassie and Timmy type team with the simpleton page from 30 Rock, Jack McBrayer, and June Squibb, who got Oscar nominated for Nebraska, plays their housemate. The three of them live together, and it's pretty insane. It's, of course, obviously a deconstruction of the classic old multicam sitcom by Smigel and David Feldman, who's also one of the co-creators of the show. And I watched one of them, and I really got a kick out of it.
Right. Where's it playing?
It's, I think, late night on Adult Swim.
Oh.
It's called The Jack and Triumph Show. And, you may like it, but you may not. But I have always liked Robert Smigel's sense of humor, and I like the character. And once you get used to it being in a sitcom situation, they start breaking those conventions apart. And that's where it kind of takes off.
Anyway, we got to go here. You're overstaying your welcome.
Oh, thanks a million.
Anyway, tell them where they can find you.
I'm at Twitter at Culture Blaster, and on Facebook at the Michael Snyder's Culture Blast page. We'll check you next time.
Okay, and thank you, Michael. We'll talk to you next time.
You bet.
Bye-bye. And that's Michael Snyder's Culture Blast for this week. Hope you enjoyed it, and hope he leads you to some good movies.